Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kale, and today I'm going to be giving you a walkthrough and showing you the first run and drive of my 2002 S10. So the background on this car is I got this car when I was still when I first started college actually. Used it as a daily driver, drove all the way back and forth to college. It was a real fun, nice little driver. It definitely got me from point A to point B. Having the bed in the back, definitely very convenient and handy. Drove it to school and then started driving it to work. And after a while, I ended up driving it to work in the traffic and decided that's enough driving a manual transmission in the traffic. So I got a new daily driver, and it's something I wanted to do for a long time, and that was put a V8 engine in the S10. So got that swap all done, and I'm going to show you guys the first startup and the first run. But before I do that, just want to run through some of the stuff that I did to get this thing to mostly where I want it. So to start off, this engine is a LQ4 out of a 1999 pickup truck, I believe. I got it for pretty cheap. It was sitting for a while. What I had to do is I took it to a engine guy. He did a cleaning for it on me, replaced the cam bearings for me. He had to overbore it 10 thousandths over because there was a little rust in one of the cylinders. So it's a 10 thousandths over piston. It's got a Trick Flow Specialties cam, and that cam, I believe Motor Trend did a testing on that cam, and it made like 70 additional horsepower. So when they dynoed their engine, it was somewhere around 500 horsepower. I think this is somewhere going to be in that neighborhood, maybe a little bit less. Don't know. Plenty enough for this lightweight S10. On top, I've got a intake from Jegs. I wanted to do one of the lower molded intakes, but they were pretty expensive. I did order one. It was the wrong one, so ordered the one from Jegs. It came with the intake, the fuel rail, and the throttle body. So this is a 92 millimeter throttle body. You can also get I think it's a 102 millimeter throttle body. The front accessories, now so that was a little unique. I did some research online, and a lot of guys used a Corvette front setup to do their swaps into their S10s. The big advantage of that is the water pump here. It is much smaller than the truck water pump or something else. So the Corvettes, they made it really narrow. I really wanted that to have enough space between the engine and the radiator. I didn't want to have everything crammed in there where I couldn't ever do service in the future. I don't have the AC hooked up. This is an AC truck. It's not hooked up right now, so I'm just going to cap these off. But if I ever do want to put AC in the future, I can get a adapter, and the AC compressor will sit somewhere in this area. For control, I went with the Holley Terminator X Max. So far, I'm pretty happy with this. It runs, it's easy to set up, runs really well. So that's running all the computer for the engine. And then what I also did was I got a conversion harness over here from Current Performance Wiring, and that takes all the outputs from the Holley computer, runs it through my stock S10 computer so that all my gauges work. I still need to figure out some of the gauges and their calibrations because they're a little off, but I have functioning gauges because one thing I didn't want to do was completely rip the interior apart and have way different gauges. I wanted to keep it as stock looking as I could. For exhaust, I'll show you a little more down below, but I got a kit. So these are Hedman headers. Came with an oil pan, these exhaust manifolds, and the engine mounting brackets. I'll tell you more about the oil pan down below when I have the truck up, but I'm not a huge fan of it. The radiator, this is just some cheapy-ish radiator I found off of, I want to say eBay or something like that. It was the best fitting radiator I could get that fits inside of the core support with minimal amount of modification. So I did have to notch up the top of my core support right here. Typically it would be down about there. And I did have to notch down the bottom of my core support, but it fits in there really, really well, and I'm actually really happy with it. Eventually I'm gonna have to do something about the fill cap here. I didn't want to cut a big hole in here because then I'd lose all the structure and my core support. So maybe I'll have to like just make a little smaller notch or make it a little bigger so I can get the cap out. I can kind of get it out now, but it's not the best. This radiator also didn't come with the steam line that's required on LS engines. So I just had to, I got a bulkhead fitting and I just drilled a hole in the top of the radiator for my steam line. So that seemed to work out pretty well. Other than that, stock battery location, I was able to hook everything up. That wasn't too bad. I was able to run all my heater hoses, so that worked out really well. There's some other smaller stuff that eventually I want to fix on it. You know, eventually this intake, I don't want it right here and such a small air filter. I will eventually build my own intake setup tube, and it's going to come over here. There'll be a cold air box, and then I think I'm going to end up trying to pick up this hole here for an air intake. That's a future project down the line though. I'm not too worried about right now because right now it runs and drives just the way it is with this setup. And yeah, so that's about everything. Oh, one more thing I wanted to show you is the interior, all stock, so stock gauges. That's a modified shifter that I did a long time ago, and then I ran the computer for the Holly in there. As you can see, it's sitting over there. Yeah, so everything inside of there is still stock, just the way I wanted it. So I'm gonna put this thing up now and show you the underside. All right, so now that I got this thing up, I will show you guys what I did on the underside. Starting first with the wheels. So these wheels are a Weld racing wheel. Actually pretty happy with how these turned out. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like the all aluminum look with the S10, but it turned out pretty good. It's the stock wheel on the front, and then on the back you can see I've got a much wider wheel. I'll go in that a little bit later. So just looking on the underside, I said before I'm not a big fan of the oil pump, and that's because I'm not a fan of the oil pan, and that's because this oil pan doesn't have the cutout for the oil filter, which I wasn't happy about when I got this. So right now I've got just the mount over here, and you can see it's actually leaking a little bit of oil there. So it's just kind of a pain to have the remote oil filter. I'd really like to have it integrated, and that's probably something I'm gonna do in the future is get an oil pan that has the integrated oil filter. But to do that, I have to pull the entire engine off. So that's a down the road modification. For transmission, I've got a brand new American Powertrain T56. I think this is I want to say the wide ratio transmission. I wanted something that could stand up to the LS Power. My stock transmission obviously couldn't do that. So I got the American Powertrain, got a center force dual disc clutch in there. So still trying to figure out the bugs on that. I'm not used to the dual disc clutch, but working on that. And built my own cross member, so you can buy a cross member for this. I did not go that route just because it was a long lead time to get those, and it took a long time to show up. So I decided just to build my own. I think it turned out pretty good. Not too upset about it. On the S10s for the fuel system, you can run the stock fuel filter because it's got the regular inside, which is great, and then the return fuel line. And I had to do some modifications to return closer to the back, and I'll cover that in a little bit. The exhaust system, custom-made exhaust system. I did this all myself. My dad helped me out. This is a 2.5-inch exhaust system, mandrel bends, just plain steel because I don't know what I'm going to do with this in the future. Eventually, I would like to do a stainless steel system, but I don't have a TIG welder right now, so mild steel works just as well. New drive shaft, and this is from, I want to say PST out of Florida. They actually got this thing to me in like 3 days. I was really can't say enough nice things about them. Fits perfectly, gave them all the measurements I needed, and that works great. So I was able to get an H-pipe into the exhaust, so I was happy about that. For the mufflers, I've got Flowmaster Flow FX mufflers. They say that they have a deep, mellow tone. I like the way it sounds so far, so can't complain too much about that. For traction, I knew I was going to have traction with the S10 because it's a very light vehicle and I'm putting a lot of power down. So I decided to go with the Caltrax bars setup, and haven't played with it too much, haven't really set it up yet, so still working through that, but it should be pretty good. And yeah, no big issues there. Tires. So these are obviously not the stock tires that come with it. These are almost 12 inches wide. It's the biggest tire I could get to fit still underneath the wheel well, which is what I wanted. Clearance is a little tight. You know, I only got half an inch clearance between the spring and the tire, but it should be okay for what I'm going to do. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then finally, I got the rear axle. So this is a Ford 8.8 rear axle. It came out of a Ford Explorer. That's what this came out. So had to get shortened because I didn't want to have a crazy offset on my wheels when I put this axle in. So I sent this off to Moser Engineering. They shortened it, shortened the axle housing, shortened the axle shafts as well. Sent it all back. It was reasonably priced, and you know they do this all the time, so I wasn't worried at all sending that to them. Really happy with how that came out. Oh, and the last thing I was talking about, the return line. So on S10s, there's a canister here, and what I didn't, when I was first trying to start it up, and you'll see this later on in the video, gas ended up pouring out of this emissions canister, this evap canister. So what I had to do is I just had to loop the return line to the line that goes back to the tank, and this thing fired right up. It was pretty incredible how quickly it fired up after that. And then I'd say the last thing to note is that I did lower the trucks. So these are 2-inch lowering spring, lowering blocks in the back, and then I did a 2-inch drop spindle in the front, just because I didn't want to do any of the coil cutting or anything like that. And I can't have a spare tire in here, even though I wanted it for the weight, but the way the exhaust ended up coming, it just didn't work out having the spare tire back here. So that's a quick walk around of the S10 project that I've been working on for almost a year and a half now. Really happy with how it came out. Still has some fine tuning that needs to happen on it, but you know, all these projects are gonna have bugs that you're gonna have to try to work out. So I'm going to show you guys now clips of actually working on this and trying to get it running. So I hope you enjoy. Now that I'm not an idiot, and remember that it has a clutch switch, now we can start it. So dumb. Close. What's dripping sound.
I didn't hear any dripping.
I heard something dripping. Something's leaking.
I didn't hear a fuel pump.
I did.
Oh, okay, good.
Hang on, I want to see.
I hear the radio.
Ready? Clutch. Sounds so good. No fuel. No fuel. Headers are burning the paint off. Yeah, I smell it. I was like, what's the burning smell? I hope it's nothing bad. Us.
I don't want to be on this.
Why?
I don't want to be on this.
Too bad.
Be in it either.
I want to be on your YouTube videos.
They think she's roadkill.
No.
He's gonna be roadkill at the rate he keeps going.
Have fun.
Why doesn't it start properly?
I don't know.
Can you find reverse, or do you need me to hold up the stick shift for you to look at it? Don't hit my truck. It's bigger than your VTOL, boy.
Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. If you did like the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below, and I'll see you on the next build.